When you are doing an audition or when you're coaching someone, do you advise them to look inward and try and relate personally to the character, or do you advise them to sort of attempt to step into the situation of that character?
So where it gets kind of tricky, I find, is with the idea of relating, is people tend to take it very literally, right? And that's come into a buzzword kind of area with acting. This is me personally. Um, because if I give you a situation, say, you've just woken up. This is your scene, right? You've just woken up. You're realizing that you are in a spaceship light years from home and are now going to be used as some sort of pawn in some sort of interplanetary war.
Hard to relate to
Speaking for myself, I don't know what you've been up to these past
that.
few years. I can't relate to that. I don't know exactly how I would deal in that situation. So what I do and what we talk about a lot at the studio is one of an actor's greatest tools is their empathy and their curiosity. And what comes along with these ideas of like that scenario that I presented? Well, there's fear there. There's anxiety. There's probably some anger. There's confusion. Those are all things we've all experienced at any given time in our lives. So it's just starting to kind of more associatively experience these things in the way that we do when we watch film and television, right? You're not watching Game of Thrones being like, I know what that's like. No, you're being like, wow, that person's going through a pretty awful time and I feel bad for them.
But you can empathize with them in a weird way, even if you haven't, lived in a medieval era and had a sword thrust at you. You have
Exactly.
this sense of empathy, right, with these characters.
Exactly, right? So it's just that associative nature, that human integrity, that human empathy that allows us to experience feeling fully and completely from a first person point of view and not looking so externally at these characters as if like what should they be doing? It's rather how do I feel? How do I experience this conversation? What does this effectively, trigger in me as a human being?
It sounds like it's sort of more about a core emotional response as opposed to the outward situation that it's in. It's like you can relate to feeling fear or anger or happiness or whatever, and you can use that to like inject into the character. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Essentially, yeah, this idea that, what I like to talk about a lot is not so much now, putting myself into the character's shoes as it were, but rather getting these characters out of me, right? And so there's that, yeah, like that core emotional experience, that core thought, right? It's one of the things that we discuss a lot at the studio is, what are you thinking? Right? You're coming into this situation. What is the actual thought that you have as a human being? Is it, I don't want to be here? Is that I can't believe this has happened? I can't believe you did this to me, right? Like all of these things that we unconsciously a lot of the time think and go through in our day to day, but we're not thinking in the sense of like, look sad,
Right.
right? Repeating think sad thoughts over and over in your head, not really going to make you sad.
Right. What about listening? Because I feel like maybe some of the inauthenticity that we see
Mhm.
on screen stems from this idea of actors waiting for their turn to say their line.
Mhm.
How important is listening as an actor to the other person? And when I say listening, I guess I sort of mean like not just hearing them, but like a deeper kind of listening where you're
Mhm.
sort of invested in what they're saying as opposed to just kind of waiting for your turn to speak. Because at least when I was acting, granted I was a kid, but I think I fell into that sometimes where I was like, oh, my line's coming up. And
Mhm.
you're in your head about that sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that the kind of age-old question is like, how do I look like I'm listening?
Right.
Right. And I tell actors a lot, I'm like, if you want me to be like super frank about it, you just listen. Just listen to what I have to say. Think about it. Right. Now, obviously, that's a very surface level engagement in that way, but it just kind of starts with that and recognizing, when you're reading through your scripts and you are reading, the reader's lines or the other character's lines in there, even just if you take note of like what your thoughts are while you're reading those things. right? Or even if you take note of like how you feel while reading what's being said to you, and then you get that up on its feed, and now you're working with another actor and you're actually relinquishing a little bit of control of the scene over to them. One of my classes at the studio is a scene study where two actors are always paired together and they go up together. And you start to realize how much work you can let the other do as well, right? And if they're bringing their most authentic self, it really doesn't actually take a ton of effort in the sense that we think it does to like contort our face and do all of these things, but rather you get to just look them in the eye, talk to them, listen to what they have to say, and think about it critically like you would any other interaction in your life. Right. Now, one of the fun little ways that I like to kind of play with people with that too, sometimes if they're really starting to like get caught in this, like I have to like, is I'll take a Sharpie and on all of like, so say we're doing a scene together, right? I'll take a Sharpie and I'll grab your script and on all of my lines, I'll black all of it out, save for the last like three, four words. So now you don't know what I'm going to say.
That's
Right.
interesting.
And so just as an exercise, now you are actually genuinely forced to kind of take in the information from a first person point of view and listen to what I have to say and understand what's going on rather than, like you said, waiting for your turn to talk or waiting to hear the cue word.
What you're saying reminds me of a scene in The Godfather, funny
Mhm.
enough, where Pacino is in the bathroom going to get the gun to make the kill. And I saw an interview about this where they said that, I guess he had done it a couple times, but because he knew where the gun was, it felt contrived because he would just
Mhm.
reach for the gun and grab it and go. And so what they did was they hid it from him. They put it in a different spot than they told him it was in. So when he reached, he wasn't sure where it was. And he had to sort of, you see a little panic on his face and he has to find it. And then,
Mhm.
and it becomes a more authentic moment because in the same way, it's like that little line was blacked out for him, you know?
Yeah.